Hello. Hey, Amy. Hello.
Hi.
Um, Amy, why are we doing it 30 minutes earlier than we usually do? I just want to make sure we address that because we are 30 minutes earlier.
Yes. Well, I have a meeting at I think at 3 that I have to go to, and but I have a new project, a new work, a lot of interesting work that I'm going to announce soon that I've been doing, and I just can't make it. So at 3,
Yeah,
so here we are, 30 minutes early.
this
So
is a great example of taking care of yourself, and we should celebrate that. And so just wanted to make sure that if you're seeing this and if you're tuning in, we were 30 minutes earlier, and it's all great because this is recorded and it's there forever now, as long as the world exists.
interwebs.
Welcome back to Empathy Power Up, your weekly power up and injecting empathy into your day, into your week, into your lives. It is an opportunity for Amy and I to learn, to grow, to share, and just help bring some more of this idea that empathy is the way we can help reverse that growing narcissism as well as help our communities heal.
Mhm.
This month, we've been talking all about happiness, and we've done a lot of deep dives. First, with the concept, what I was sort of starting to think about in this new theory of happiness that I'm putting together. But we had a deep dive into some of the research that exists and the different types of happiness and what do we know so far. And then coming back to my theory, what we had talked about a little bit last week was the five fundamental truths that we need to first accept this. We cannot be genuinely happy if we do not accept these five fundamental truths. And just to recap, these five truths, one, you are capable of deserving of happiness. And it sounds very like platitudey or something, but it is something that a lot of us need to accept. There's times where I didn't accept that myself. Um, that number two, your happiness is in your control and depends completely on you. That's what it means. Our happiness is
Mm.
in our control. Every time I've seen people expect happiness and dependency on from other people, I have seen disappointment. I've experienced that. So we need to understand that we can control our own happiness. Number
Mhm.
three, uh, we all have unique superpowers that make us awesome and impactful. This is something that I was even sharing with someone like my brother or someone is like, oh, you have a superpower, and they don't believe it, and that's not true. Everyone has something that they are really great at, something that is their superpower, and that makes them awesome. And if you feel like you are not, you don't understand that, I invite you to understand yourself and see, okay, what are the things that just happen naturally to you that you do well, that you're getting great feedback on. Reflect on those. Like Amy's awesome superpower is amazingly at empathy and writing research and doing some really design centric work. All of these things make Amy amazing. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yep.
number four, you are loved and can be loved. That anytime I felt my lowest, I felt no one loved me, but that wasn't true. My mom still did. My mom still did. There were some people, and I just didn't want to see it in that moment. And there was other people who loved me, and then I just needed to continue to remind myself that, and the fact that I can be loved by more and more folks and communities. And
Mm.
number five, we can all learn and practice empathy. It is something that if we believe we can't, I would invite you to ask yourself why. Why do you believe that? Have you given that a shot? And
Mm.
if you want to, there's lots of ways. There's Empathy for Change, a great book by Amy J. Wilson. Or you can also check out Jago, and which is our Empathy Gym app, where you can learn empathy. In fact, there was a story. I have a mentee who I've been helping as part of the queer community in tech, and he said one day he didn't have a friend to chat with. He was just hanging out. So he went and checked out Jago, and he watched some stories, and he's like, holy shit, this works. And he started understanding himself because of the process of going through Jago.
Mm.
So it was really great to hear that. Anyway, so that was our recap
Mm.
and what we did. I'll pause here, Amy, for any.
Yeah. I got two things I wanted to bring up. Number one, I wanted you to talk a little bit about what do you see as the direct like connection between empathy and happiness,
Mm,
right? Because it doesn't seem like there are two things. They might be in the same,
yeah.
grouping, but how are they connected?
Yeah, great question. So the way I see empathy is first the process when we practice empathy, we first have to understand our biases so we can try to separate our biases from the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So in that process, we learn more about ourselves. When we learn more about ourselves, we are more likely to seek out happiness in things that we understand that give us happiness and that make us happy. And when we are feel
Mm.
understood or we feel understood by ourselves, we feel more confident and happier. Number two is when we do practice empathy and we understand other people's perspectives or try to understand other people's perspectives and make them feel seen or heard, they reciprocate that back to you. You feel seen
Mm.
or heard. So when we practice empathy, it resonates back to us. And other people, when other people feel seen and heard, they feel happier. They are more likely to be happy. And when you're surrounded by happier people, you are also happier. And so
Mm.
that is why empathy is so rooted in happiness in general.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I'll
Wow.
use the example. I don't think my mom ever practiced empathy. It was sympathy. She loves lots of love and care and everything, but I noticed I never felt she was genuinely happy. And
Mm.
I just had recently a conversation. I was like, mom, there's a reason why I don't just like coming and visiting often, because we're not happy around each other.
Mm. That's interesting. Interesting observation.
And so that changed her perspective. When I shared that, I'm like, and I'm trying to invite her to be more empathetic and practice it. And
Mm-hmm.
she's she's pretty old in her way, so it's slightly more difficult to learn. Neurons are less flexible when they are, but still possible. So she's working on it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something anyway. So that was your one question. What was the second?
Yeah, the second thing was more of like something that came up for me that is related to what you're talking about is like we can control and it's essentially like it's in our nexus of control, right? Like we
Mm-hmm.
can, have happiness or not have happiness, it's a choice. So I literally, one of my clients that I just had a session with today in a 4-part series, the theme today was our empathy deficit, but a big portion of what I was just talking about, and I some bonus material I'm sending to them, is the idea of the circles of concern, influence, and control.
Mm.
And that's from Stephen Covey, this Seven
Mm-hmm.
Habits of Highly Influential People, or um, I think that's the phrase,
Highly
the name.
effective people. Highly
Effective,
effective people.
effective, highly effective people. And um, what's interesting is that, like, if you go deeper into this, like, essentially the idea is like there's all these things you can't control, right? Like you're concerned about, like the pandemic, global warming, climate change, whatever you want to do. Then there's influence, the things that you can change, possibly, right, and influence. And then control is literally what the small circle of like the things that I can actually change or control myself, right? And so there's like concern, influence, control, and so the thing that I was talking about is that there's like this idea of proactive versus reactive, and that the people who focus more on what you can influence and control are actually happier, right? Because they are focusing on and making progress and are changing things because they're responding over reacting. And on
Mm-hmm.
the other side of the spectrum, which is reactive, those people focus on the circle of concern, things that they have no control over. And so, therefore, their circle of influence and the things they can control gets smaller,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was just a learning that I have that I wanted to
Yeah.
offer here that I think is really relevant to happiness, is that if you can become happier if you focus on things that you can influence and control.
Yeah, I completely agree. I and love that perspective, because let's use climate change for example, or like things we can do.
Mm-hmm.
It is a concern.
Yeah.
As an individual, it's can be overwhelming, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
I can't do much at a large scale, but what I can do, like what I can influence, I understand that. And then the things I can control, like I stopped using toothpaste like you get. I'm using now these bites, so that it comes in a bottle, and it
Mm-hmm.
no plastic involved at all in the shipping or any of that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
things that I can control, and now those little things I do are all around. Like even today, we're like, okay, it's time to find a sustainable shaving cream, and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, like a process. And so those are the things I can control, and they give us, like, when we're using them, we don't feel guilty. We're like, okay, now this is something that I'm the little thing I can control and do, and so little by little, all of those things add up. So love
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about what two topics. One is, what is genuine happiness, and then this
Mm-hmm.
idea of this. I almost feels like generational trauma, and we'll talk about it, is making other people happy, and we'll talk about
Okay.
it. And so first, let's just like, what is, when we say I am happy, like, and a reason I try to create a difference between genuine happiness and happiness
Mm.
is, when I ask my mom, are you happy? And she's like, I'm happy. But all her actions and her feedback and reactions and things all are telling me that she's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is something, maybe it's an awareness thing, maybe it's just a self, I'm happy, you're telling yourself. And that's what you, like I used to do, is when I was feeling so down and lonely and alone and excluded and rejected, I would tell myself, be happy with being alone, be happy with being alone, be happy with. So is it that cycle? And so we need to understand the difference, that what genuine happiness is versus what we tell ourselves makes us happy and we are happy. And we need to be
Mm-hmm.
aware of that. And I think that is a requirement for us to be happy, is to
Mm-hmm.
understand that, are we truly genuinely happy? And some of the signs that you aren't genuinely happy are, when people are around you, are they happy? Are they responding back in happiness? Do they seek you out to spend more time with, or spend more happiness, or spend moment time, or versus you're there in part of their life, but those joyous moments are diminished. So some of these signs can help you drive that awareness. I'll pause here.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing that came to mind was talking about, like, are you, when you're surrounded by people, or do you make them happy? Is number one, we're in a pandemic. We're not usually around people. We usually virtual. Like, you
Hmm.
have a husband, I live alone,
Hmm.
so I don't have people that I engage with on a regular basis. And also, first of all, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, like, I don't have that conversation with people that are around me to be like, do I make you happy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some things that we could, as individuals, make this kind of lean into this piece where, how are some indicators that shows that
Yeah.
internally we're happy?
Yeah. So first is, are you expecting happiness from someone else? So, like, do they do this, hence I will make them happy, it will make me
Mm-hmm.
happy.
Mm-hmm.
So an example is, if you pray this way, that will make me happy. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't drink alcohol, or drink alcohol, or if you eat meat or don't eat meat, or if you behave this way, then it'll make me happy. It's a happiness
Mm-hmm.
dependent on others and expected from others. That is
Mm-hmm.
a sign where that is not genuine happiness. That
Mm-hmm.
is a sign of, I want you to do what want you to, what I want. and
Okay.
and and so that is one of those signs. And so what we can do, when thanks for sharing, like, you live with yourself, and you're not closely surrounded by people, other than when you meet people in for coffee, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, like online experiences like this. In those moments, um I would invite people to reflect. Are people leaning in? Are people having a conversation with more vulnerability around you? Are people feeling safe with you? Are people sharing their happy moments, like, oh, I did this really awesome thing, and all of these things? When those are signs that people around you are feeling safe and happier, and are happy. And
Mm-hmm.
then instinctively you'll start responding in that sense as well. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
something that you go through.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think about just saying it, how affected we are even like on chatting with somebody. So I have a friend who is very concerned that she hasn't gotten COVID yet, nor have
Hmm.
I. But she's very, very concerned that she's going to get COVID, even though
Hmm.
she's boosted, she's
Hmm.
gone through all the things. And she's like, we don't know about like long-term COVID. And she tells me that she was like, I, and so I felt like I feel her. I'm also an empath, so but I
Hmm.
feel that energy and that like the nervousness that she has. Um, and I had to like over time, I had to essentially step in and be like, you know what? I don't want to live my life in this sense of fear that I'm going to get something, like it's much different now, having being boosted than it is, when you're, thinking
Hmm.
in a bigger way of like not being boosted and, still combating this. So, and chances are things are going to be really mild. So it's essentially being like, there's times I'm thinking about like when happiness is concerned, like I'm standing up for my own happiness and then being like, I am, this is what I want, right? And I'm going to choose to live my life according to this way that I want to do. But it's very, very hard when the people you're closest with really
Mm.
do put this kind of in, mindset out there, and they do influence you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And happiness is really, it comes down to us, right? It's like, how can I influence the world around me, right? That
yeah,
are really around me.
yeah.
So yeah.
I understand. Thanks for sharing that story. We are very similar, Paul and I. We're like, we don't want to get the virus. We don't know what long COVID is like, and all of these things. So we have those concerns as well. But what we did is, okay, we're boosted. We're done all of that. We're gonna wear an N95 mask, and I'm gonna go to spaces where I don't have to take those off. and
Mm-hmm.
and so that's the balance that we're doing. And so when we wear the mask, we
Mm-hmm.
see other people put on the mask. It sort of creates a space where everyone feels a little bit more comfortable. But
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. It's this idea of choosing what is happiness to you. I have friends who live down the block went on the big cruise that was right now, and like with the 5,500 people on that ship, and
Mm-hmm.
they had a big time and seemed like everything went out safely for us, at least currently as we know. um, but similarly, it's like, do what is comfortable to you, that gives you that sense of safety, and it's back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll tee us off for the next time, but just to
Mm-hmm.
tee off, an invitation to ask yourself this whole concept: do I make you happy, or did I make my father, like this concept of making your parents proud or making them happy by what you do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we see in movies, we see in all these things, like, oh, I did this to make my mom happy, or my dad happy, or my grandfather happy, or proud.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea, and it's like, it's it's usually inclined around the idea that we are doing something we don't really want to do, but we're doing it for them. Or even if it's something we want to do, we're doing it for someone versus doing it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm
Okay.
inviting that reflection, and we'll dive deeper into that next week as we talk about that and happy moments. Because right now we're
Mm-hmm.
at time, so I wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
wrap it up in a
Absolutely.
nice, because this is a good bow we can tie it up on, and then we'll come
Mm-hmm.
back again and talk more about the
Absolutely.
concept of making other people happy, and how do we break down happy moments.
Yeah, exactly. Let's leave it there for today. But I appreciate this having these deeper dialogues and the pausing, because I get to kind of insert just like top of mind stories and things like that come out. But it's so we're gonna continue the happiness journey next week. So that's gonna be exciting. So I'm looking forward to talking to you more then.
Yeah. See you,
Okay.
everyone. Take care.
Bye.